This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. A big day for WST. We got the holiday party tonight at Little Brown Jug. Hope to see you there. Things are shaping up very well. It is absolutely glorious outside. I think it's like 7 degrees or something like that for a high today, which we will take. But I can also tell you it is shaping up very well for tonight's WST gathering. If you haven't already got a ticket, folks, do us a favor. Jump into the link in the description right here. Remo, throw it up in the chat too. For anyone that's been thinking, oh, I didn't know whether I could make it. Well, if you can make it, do it tonight. Because 7 o'clock, we're going to get going. Some pints from our favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug. Our friends at BP are going to throw some pies around so everyone can grab a slice as well. DQ Nick's jumping on in. He'll be bringing some DQ ice cream treats for everyone. And we were already, and this is all in support of the Christmas Cheer Board, every cent of the ticket, every cent of our raffle going to Christmas Cheer. And I'll bring Remis in, but we've got a couple of new additions to the raffle, which I'm very, very excited about. But we'll get to all of that. Hope to see you here tonight. We've got a lot to talk about. Jets practiced and hit the road today to Colorado. Huge tilt tomorrow with the Avalanche. Murat will join us tomorrow on the program to tee up that. And for the latest on the Jets. Today, though, Scott Billeck will be our Jets guest. And looking forward to talking about Scott's piece in the Winnipeg Sun on a bit of a rating, a grade, if you will, for all members of the Winnipeg Jets through this first part of the season. And, of course, we'll get into, what's at stake tomorrow night as the Jets, 2 points back of Colorado, look to close the gap and make up for a 3-game losing streak last week that seems like it's well into the rearview mirror, and maybe make it 3 in a row and get right up there with the big dogs in the Central Division. We will also be checking in and talking some Jets prospects in the upcoming World Junior with Stephen Ellis of Daily Faceoff. Talk about the Jets prospects that are on the rosters, both for Canada and some of the other clubs, as well as how Canada is shaping up for the tournament. And I could literally talk for 2 hours about Ohtani Watch. We will get into that shortly with Michael Remis. But we will also head east and get the latest on Ohtani Watch, how it's affecting Blue Jays fans, how people are feeling about it all, with Josh Goldberg coming up a little bit later on. So buckle up, should be a good one. And most importantly, hopefully we see you tonight raising some money for the Christmas Cheer Board and having a great time with the WST crew. I mentioned right off the bat, thanks so much to Little Brown Jug for hosting us tonight. The incredible generosity from Andrew and the crew over at Boston Pizza. DQ Nick. These are sponsors that are always there for us, but even more so tonight. And, of course, a big thanks to all of our sponsors. Modern Man Barbershops. I made a visit. Shout out Cordell and Jess at the Pembina location for taking great care of me yesterday. Aquatech, Modern Man Barbershop, as I mentioned, Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club, Vita Health, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, Princess Auto, Royal Sports, the Winnipeg Jets as well, and, of course, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, and Nick and Nikki DQ. All right, let's get to it. Remo, how are you feeling? Are you ready to have a little bit of fun tonight with our crew?
Yeah, I always get nervous for these things. I always wonder, like, oh, no one's going to show up, but we've been pretty packed for all of them. So I think that was maybe in the early days when we started doing on-location stuff. But yeah, I'm looking at.
Don't compare our WST gatherings to your own social life and parties, please, Remis. This is a different animal, a different beast.
That's fair. I'm looking at the tickets. Yeah, for podcast listeners, it is at the top of WinnipegSportsTalk.com. It says going fast here on the Eventbrite page. So get ready. And I did send out a little final reminder for those that are subscribed to the newsletter. Where we can reach you more directly, and if you want to get on that, it's at WinnipegSportsTalk.com. At the bottom, scroll into the bottom, and you can sign up to get any urgent notifications like that. So looking forward to seeing everyone tonight. Should be a lot of fun, and I know you got some great raffle prizes planned, which should have many very excited.
Well, yeah, you know what? Listen, we'll get to that right off the bat. I mean, originally we were thinking, obviously, we're going to put all the ticket money to the Christmas cheer board. And then the folks at Little Brown Jug said, you know what, let's do a little raffle. And, we'll do tickets, I don't know, five tickets for $10. By the way, if you can, bring cash, because that's the one thing that we cannot do Interact for. Obviously, be able to get beers using your cards as normal. But this is going to be separate. So if you are able to bring a 10 or a 20 for the raffle, and I'm about to tell you why you're going to want to do that. But again, that is going to be a cash transaction, if you will. They're going to put together a package of some of that awesome Little Brown Jug merchandise, and I think some beer. That will be a prize. The gang at the Jets, knowing that we were doing it, generously donated a really nice autographed, framed Kyle Connor picture, as well as a Winnipeg Jets hoodie and a toque. So we've got a really nice Jets package. And get this, Remis, a special thank you to an old pal of mine, Mitch Brennan with Ticketmaster. And Mitch and Ticketmaster have 4 seats in the new premium, like the ultra premium area at the arena. I think it's technically called the Play Now Lounge. Not to be confused with the Ticketmaster Lounge, which is now essentially the entire club area, which has been, so popular this year. I think the P1s have access to that. The club seats have access to it. Far bigger now. It's great. But the seats in the Play Now Lounge come in 4s. And I think we talked about it when we went through the tour. This is the area where they basically took 3 suites and put like the biggest, most comfortable chairs I have ever seen in a sporting event in, added a beautiful private bar, seat service, and these tickets come with, like, the executive chef is there making different treats to eat throughout the entire game. And the Ticketmaster folks have given us some seats to host a couple of WST winners. So the other prize tonight in the raffle is going to be someone's going to win 2 seats to come with myself and probably Remis if he can get away on a Tuesday night. I'm sure he will be able to for this. We'll get together. We'll watch the game. We'll eat our faces off and, dine in the lap of luxury at the most premium seat in the arena. Now, I believe the game, and I will confirm this hopefully by tonight, I believe the game for this is going to be the Tuesday, January 9th game against Columbus. I think that is highly likely to be, but I'm just waiting on confirmation. But the bottom line is we're going to have an opportunity for a couple of you to win seats in the Play Now Lounge along with us. And as I say, get treated to the newest and most spectacular addition to the Canada Life Center. And Reem, this is going to be fun. To get together with the winner and just get a chance to see what that lounge is all about. We had the tour before the season started, and it looked amazing. And I got to tell you, both for us and the winners, that is going to be a really, really fun night. I'm already hungry just thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm hungry. Looking forward to tonight. Getting ready for what? Yeah, Boston pizza. Nick's bringing ice cream, so should be a blast. Seeing so many people getting to sample all the kinds of Little Brown Jug as well. I got my generic lager hat for the day, but I'll be maybe looking for something a bit different there tonight. I know they have a lot of different varieties.
Well, exactly. Yeah. We've been drinking a lot of 1919 and generics at the arena. But they'll have some seasonal beers. I mean, listen, there's all sorts of great offerings, but there's nothing like getting to the brewery and tap room because of everything that you're able to try that might not normally be there. All right. And by Blake, you are correct. I mean, with the Avalanche squeaking by the Ducks yesterday 3-2, they're actually 4 points up. So the Jets wouldn't be able to tie for first place. But depending on what happens tonight with the Dallas Stars taking on the Florida Panthers, might be able to jump in a second with a win tomorrow. So we'll get to all of that. But right off the bat, and I don't know that there's ever a time where we've started off a show in the middle of hockey season talking about baseball. I don't know about you, but I was up way too late last night, repeatedly refreshing Twitter to see if there was any more news about Shohei. Pretty exciting and pretty tense for Blue Jays fans, considering what the ultimate prize is, that by all accounts, they are very much in the mix, coming right down to a decision that's expected in the next 3-4 days.
Yeah, before the weekend or around the weekend, you expect Shohei Ohtani make a decision. Rumors are the teams are Blue Jays that are in, the Dodgers, maybe the Giants and Angels as well. And you're reading a lot of reports that, he took a tour of the Blue Jays' new Florida facility. He likes maybe that Toronto's a bit quieter than LA. They're pitching him on the idea of being the face for an entire country, and Shohei wants to take a path maybe that people haven't taken before. I mean, anyone can just go to the Dodgers and you'll be just another player in Dodgers history. But if you came to the Blue Jays, you'd be the face of an entire country, and you did do something that they haven't done since 1993, win a World Series. You would be loved here forever, and Toronto, as well as an international city, a lot of things that would attract him to it. And baseball is played in the summer, not winter, but they're trying to sell him, and stiff competition. It's going to cost them a lot, but definitely bring a lot of benefits and certainly a lot of excitement here as we are in the MLB offseason.
Well, and again, we'll get into this with Josh a little later on, but I mean, whatever the money is, and it's going to be record-breaking, and it's going to sound stupid, will be worth every single cent to Rogers if they can get this done. I mean, from a baseball aspect, he'll fill the building. There will be people traveling from around the world to come and see the home games in Toronto. The merchandise sales right off the bat will be record-breaking. I guarantee that if this happens. And then from a media perspective, and let's not forget that the Jays and Rogers broadcast the games and own Sportsnet, takes their level of visibility to a whole nother level. And Brown-Eyed Girl MJD says this, and I don't know whether this is tongue-in-cheek or serious, but said, who is this guy? I don't know baseball players. Shohei Ohtani is the unicorn of baseball. He has been arguably the best hitter in the game for the last number of years and was an all-star level pitcher as well. And I don't think anyone has done this since the great Babe Ruth. And when you look at what Ohtani's done during his short career and what Ruth was doing when he was pitching, there are arguments to be made that he was even better than Babe Ruth. It's impossible to quantify just how big of a star and how massive a signing this would be, both from a baseball perspective, but also from a business perspective, which I think is why people's hopes are so up that this would be franchise changing for the Jays and their profile around the world, not just here in Canada from coast to coast.
Yeah, he pitches, and he's one of the top pitchers in the league, and he's a hitter. And he led the league in OBP, OPS. I mean, he's one of the best hitters and all-star pitchers. So having that combination, now he's having surgery, so he won't be able to pitch
for this year.
But I mean, you'd have him in the future, and I mean, his stats are incredible. And yeah, he does both, won MVPs. So this is a guy, you want to build your team around. I mean, the idea of a guy pitching and hitting, I mean, he's broke. I know for a lot of people who play fantasy, he's broken fantasy baseball because the sites weren't set up to have someone who could do both. So they've had to rejig the whole game. I think they had to change the rules in the AL, right? So you could, if you were a DH and you could come back and pitch, I forget what it was, but he's changed the way baseball has played for sure. And
how, I haven't played fantasy baseball on a season long in the last little bit. Like, how is he being drafted in leagues? You either take Ohtani the hitter or you take Ohtani the pitcher?
It depends. So on Yahoo, it's different. Their site wasn't made to configure that, to do that. So you would have two players. On other sites, you would be putting him in at pitcher or hitter. So, if you're on a daily league, the days he's pitching, you put him in at pitcher. So I think there is a decision that it has to be made at times, but it's definitely he's a top, if you can get him at both positions, he's a top player.
And many people saying the best player of all time based on what he's done. And I mean, the marketability of Ohtani as, a Japanese superstar. I mean, there's just so much that goes into this. So, yes, people have their hopes up, myself in particular, because we jumped on him at 25-1 to go to the Jays a little while ago in the lock shop. And the Jays odds are now down to plus 150. Only the Dodgers are higher. And yesterday, of course, Dave Roberts, there's been a lot of conjecture about, Ohtani and his representatives wanting to keep this very hush-hush. And you've seen the Jays haven't even admitted to meeting with him. They've been very coy. And then Dave Roberts, the Dodgers manager, said, well, I want to be honest. We met with him. It went really well. And people wondering. And then right after that, he got a text message saying, shut the hell up. And then the general manager didn't want to talk about it or say anything. So it's fascinating. And it is certainly taking over a large percentage of the discourse among sports fans in social media right now. All that being said, we'll talk to Josh Goldberg later on in the program in hour number 2 of the show. And, speaking of things that we don't talk about very much, that we should mention right off the bat, what an incredible send-off for Tristan Sinclair last night in her final game with Canada's women's national team, Reem.
Yeah, what a legend. And a shout out to all the fans there in BC. What a amazing crowd in Vancouver. Get to say goodbye. So many great memories. 2012 stands out for me. Maybe that brought you in to how great this women's program is. But then, winning the Olympic gold recently, there's games against Team USA, big goals. She's been doing this for so long. 48,000 fans there in Vancouver last night. Has a pretty incredible career. Second most matches ever. And, you could argue, is she one of the greatest Canadian athletes in any sport of all time, not just soccer? So complete legend, Tristan Sinclair, and well done. What a great send-off yesterday. And, they won as well against Australia. And look, she inspired so many people. And, how many people on the team now grew up watching them, where there's London, London Olympics for me really brought me in, but she's been playing much longer than that.
Yeah, well, and listen, I mean, we'll get Desiree Scott on at some point, to talk with her. I mean, she's a Canadian soccer legend as well with all the medals that she's won. But she'll be the first one to tell you that this program, has been led by Tristan Sinclair for her entire time. And I was saying to Dusty in the lock shop that, there needs to be, and I imagine there will be, a standing offer that whenever she's ready to join the federation and the national team in another role, that spot is there for her. I do think, and I'm not for sure, maybe someone in chat can correct me, I do think that she's still, this was her retirement from the national team. I think she'll still probably play for the Portland Thorns. I think soccer is her life. I don't believe she's got a family. There's not anything she's trying to get away from. It's just time for her to retire from the international side of the game. So she's done it, and is the highest scoring player, period, ever in international soccer history. So yeah, great showing, and shout out to the fans there for giving our our greatest ever, the GOAT, the proper send-off that she deserved. A couple quick Jet notes, and we'll get to a little bit of audio before Scott jumps on with us. The team did practice today and then got on the bird for that big game tomorrow in Denver. But Remo, Bruce Garriock writing in Post Media that teams are kicking the tires on Big Stan, a rugged defenseman that can block shots, 25 years old, making $1 million, an RFA after the season. It was described as the Jets aren't exactly shopping him, but teams are calling. And to me, that's a perfect scenario for the Winnipeg Jets. If they get a deal that makes sense for Logan Stanley, pull the trigger on it. Like we talked yesterday, they would like to have all these defensemen, maybe add another one once you get to the playoffs. But getting to that point is the challenge because, of course, about the impending return of Ville Heinola at some point and the fact that there's already 8 defensemen on the squad, and both Chisholm and Stanley would need waivers if they were going to spend any time in the A.
Seems like we've been talking for 2 years, Huss. They have too many defensemen. They have to make room to bring in some of these young guys like Chisholm and Heinola. And there was a report at the end of last season by Frank Saravalli that Logan Stanley had requested a trade. And look, we've seen video of Ville Heinola skating, coming back from his fractured ankle, and he's going to be back soon. And what are they going to do? They're going to have to make the room if they've healthy scratched, Nate Schmidt for a couple games. But I think for Logan Stanley, I mean, how long ago was he drafted? And he's already expressed that, he'd like a change of scenery. And I think if he's going to become, a regular NHL player, I think that, it's probably not going to be here with the Jets. They have a number of defensemen. Sandberg has passed him on the depth chart. I mean, you could argue there are other players. Well, Heinola, what about Chisholm? I mean, I just don't know if there's really a spot here. And if you want to free up that roster spot for Ville Heinola when he returns, this would be, a guy. What are teams going to trade for him? Even a late pick? Is it anything? I mean, he hasn't really become a regular NHLer. Has. I know he had injuries last year, only 19 games. This year he's gotten into 4, 58 and 20.
6'7".
Yes, but again, I guess teams, when you see 6'7", they think they can turn him into something, and it's possible that happens. But I think no matter what, it's not going to happen here in Winnipeg, and it's probably best for the team and the player to move on and see if you can get something else and give other players here an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, would they like to have that asset for a playoff run in the press box in case guys get hurt? If you have to go really down that depth chart, sure. But I'm not sure they can get to that point without potentially losing another player. Although we did talk about the Nate Schmidt situation and what that might do going forward. But if there's a good deal for the Winnipeg Jets, maybe you get a player that is waiver exempt in that deal that can play with the Moose and then come up as a black ace. Maybe it makes sense. Anyways, we'll talk about it with Billeck a little bit later on. We're going to start it off, though, with our old pal Stephen Ellis from Daily Faceoff to talk a little bit about some Jets prospects in the upcoming World Juniors. Just before we do that, well, we've got the holiday party tonight, and Christmas is just around the corner. 3 weeks from right now, and the gang at Canadian Club has a CC for every occasion, whether it's a holiday gathering or for gift gathering. WST listeners are covered. Great gift options with sales on all the Canadian Club favorites, original 100% rye CC Classic 12-year-old, as well as the limited release CC 15-year-old Sherry Cask is available right now at Manitoba Liquor Marts. The signature CC Classic 12-year-old whiskey featured with a secondary aging in Oloroso Sherry Casks. All the hallmarks of a classic Canadian Club with the added richness and sweetness of
Oh, we lost Huss. Well, I'll wait for him to come back on, but yeah, great Canadian Club there. Anyways, as we wait for him to return, we're going to be joined by Stephen Ellis here of Daily Faceoff, World Junior Training Camp rosters released for the Jets. Dom DiVincentis on Team Canada. Colby Barlow, the first-round pick from this past year, not on the list. He's dealing with some injuries this year. And on Team USA, Rutger McGroarty, who suffered an injury. They had him on the training camp roster, but we will wait and see. what his availability is. As far as the Jets, they did have a practice today. Lines, we've been saying forever that there's not much going on with them. Oh, here's a call from Hustler. I put you on speaker here. Do I need to go off to help you, or what's going on? You got disconnected. Is your internet down?
I got this.
Yeah, you got booted out of the room. You're on speakerphone, by the way. Do I have to sign off to troubleshoot this?
No, well, I just thought we were taking care and see if we get back next you. Bring in Ellis. I get.
Okay. Is your internet down?
It must be my internet, because I'm looking at the YouTube and I'm just getting spinning wheels. I thought maybe your internet.
No. I'm here. I'm on the show. The chat says what up. I'm holding the phone into the microphone here.
You know what? That is a great way of doing it. Always enjoyed that. You know what? I'll tell you what. While you get Stephen Ellis ready, you just keep me there, because I can give a shout out. And I guess you can't see it right now that I'm off, but I did get a very nice cut yesterday from our friends over at Modern Man Barbershop. Of course, they've got 8 locations in Winnipeg, and got you covered, guys, with haircuts, beard shaping, shaves, color services, and more. Figured it was the perfect time to get ready for the big holiday party tonight. But great folks over at the Pembina location. But there's 8 locations around Winnipeg, conveniently located near you. Make an appointment just in time for the holidays at modernmanbarber.com. And make sure to follow them on Instagram over at Modern Man Barbershop. And you're thinking about something for the holidays. Maybe the best gift for you and your family could be something for your home. Whole home renovations start with Aquatech. With thousands of rentals is their foundation. Aquatech can upgrade any space in your home. If you're looking to, if you're ready to enhance your kitchen, bathroom, or even add a man cave to your home, visit aqua-tech.ca to learn more about their whole home renovations, including financing options. And I know it's gorgeous outside right now, but we know that will not be the case. Hopefully later than sooner, but it is coming. Are you ready for Winnipeg, folks? If you're not, you better get down to Manitoba Battery and make sure that your battery is ready for the extremes of the Winnipeg winter. Manitoba Battery is your local option. Family owned on Logan Avenue, cranking out the best prices in town, period. Beating the pants off the big box stores. And of course, not only will you get the best price in town, but Donnie and his staff will deliver it to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It's just that easy. So get to ManitobaBattery.com, get your battery ordered, give them a phone call at 783-8787. And you can always pop by and see him for a free battery test, see how you're doing. Friendly staff there as well. 1026 Logan Avenue for our friends at Manitoba Battery. All right, Reem, why don't you fire up with Stephen Ellis and talk a little World Juniors, and I'll see if we can get this computer going again.
Yeah, do you need me to troubleshoot with you or anything, or are you okay?
I don't know. I think I just need to unplug my internet and try and get it going again. I'll text you.
Okay.
And, the show must go on.
The show, yeah. Well done, Hustle. Getting a lot of props in the chat here. I see people are laughing, but that is a straight up commitment. I'll have to be Andrew Paterson here as I bring in Steven, doing this on the fly. Got to put my camera on. Here it is. And there we go. I'll be in Hustler's chair. All right. Let's give her. Stephen Ellis, Daily Faceoff. Welcome to the show. How's it going? I saw you in our chat enjoying what was going on over there.
Some good entertainment. Good job.
Good job. Well, we're in December, and countdown to the World Juniors. Traditionally, the Boxing Day start, and training camp rosters are trickling in. I see on Daily Faceoff you have your initial thoughts on Team Canada's World Junior Camp roster, snubs, the draft impact, to watch them more. But let's start off from a Jets perspective. I think, after the draft where we saw you in Nashville, we thought Colby Barlow was kind of a lock this year, but he's not invited to training camp. What what can you tell us about Colby Barlow's season that led to him not being on the list?
I think there's a few reasons. Obviously, he hasn't played too well this year. He's dealt with some injuries, but then he also, when you look back at the under-18 tournament last year, he struggled in that event. It seemed like he couldn't keep up with the pace of the bigger ice. Didn't have as big of an impact defensively, so it was kind of, it was kind of a perfect storm there. So I think he'd make the team next year, but it's not like goal scoring is going to be a problem with this Canadian team, even without guys like Zach Benson, Matthew Poitras, Shane Wright, obviously Connor Bedard. I think they're still going to be able to find scoring from elsewhere, so they didn't necessarily need him, and he wasn't going to fit perfectly in a bottom six role. So I didn't think he was going to make the team on my last projection, which was, I believe, last week or the week before, but it's, not getting invited to camp always sucks, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think Colby Barlow, you forget that he's only 18 years old. He's turning 19 in February, but you see him, he's got this huge beard. He's got all this facial hair. You refer to him as kind of a man at the draft, but, he's still got time to make an impact. The other Jets player, Team Canada, Dom DiVincentis, we saw him at, a development camp here in the summer and training camp. What kind of impact is he going to have on Team Canada? And just touching on the Jets before we get into the training camp roster as a whole.
I think with Canada's goaltending, kind of like we've seen the last couple of years, it's very open as to who could be the guy. Mathis Rousseau out of Quebec's been really lighting it up this year. DiVincentis, he's not been playing as great as he was last year. He was the best goal in the OHL last year. We knew what he was able to do. I think right now, he dealt with a brief injury for himself. Hasn't been 100%, but I think this is a good opportunity for him to go to camp and really prove himself. And I'm happy training camps in Oakville, by the way. That's a 5-minute drive from where I live. But to see him, it's like, also on the other hand, I do hope he's not using those North Bay Battalion pads of Canada. That would be the worst color clash of all time. But he's got a good opportunity here to fight for the starting role. No one's kind of got the clear number one favorite aspect. It's not been, if you're looking at the hot hand, he's not the hot hand right now, but he's a guy that's got this experience of being, a high impact goalie. I know that he's got some good reviews at development camp in the past. So he's basically a lock of any of the four goalies. He's a lock for sure for me.
As far as Team Canada and World Juniors, is it gold? Are we going to a gold or a bust again? What are the expectations here for Team Canada heading into this year's tournament?
Anything can happen, but if I'm doing a pre-tournament ranking, they're not first and they're not second. USA and Sweden just look stacked. Sweden's bringing a lot of their roster back from last year. A lot of guys that looked really good at the summer tournament that they played in. And a lot of those guys have played together for 3 to 4 years in international competition. And the Americans are the same way because you've got the U.S. development guys. You've got probably one of the best lines in the entire tournament of Gabe Perreault, Ryan Leonard, and Will Smith. A team that's so good that Cole Eiserman is projected to go top 5 in the 2024 draft, wasn't even invited to camp. But a 2025 prospect, James Hagens, was. If you look at James Hagens, he's like a Jack Hughes Jr., essentially, the way he plays. So I think those are the teams to watch. Canada, I still expect to play for a medal. They still got a good team. I think just the question is, who's going to be that leader on the team? Matthew Savoy might be the favorite. Celebrini, obviously, we know, like, pure talent, the top prospect for 2024. But it's a, who else is going to stand up? I'm not sure yet.
Well, Steven, I think we got Hustler back in here, rebooted the computer, internet's ready, and we touched on the Jets prospects, Barlow and DiVincentis, and the expectations for Canada. But I will tag, Hustler, we're doing a tag here. Hold out your hand. Team. We're tag team, holding out the hand. I'll bring you.
Hot tag coming in. Yes. All right. Thanks, Reed. There we go. Hey, I don't know how much you got into this, but tell us about Barlow's season overall. I guess he's been hurt quite a bit. How much did that kind of impact, Steven, his kind of ability? Like, would he have been on the radar at the beginning of the season for you? And just give us a bit of the lowdown on what's been up with Cole, because it seems it's been of a star-crossed campaign.
Yeah, it's been a while, I believe, since I last saw him play. I want to say early November. But he's a point per game player, 14 points, 14 games. Doesn't sound bad by any means, but nothing spectacular for a team like this. Between the injuries, just kind of the so-so play, and then the way he played at the U18s, which I know Hockey Canada probably wasn't thrilled with it, which was not very impactful. Struggled with the bigger ice. Looked a little lost at points. I think that probably didn't help his case. But a part of this is just a situation of just enough talent, enough older talent. You got all these 19-year-olds going to edge him out as an 18-year-old. So some of it was out of his control. Other end, it's like, again, injuries didn't help this year.
And just, I know you were kind of talking about DiVincentis. I mean, how would you categorize the competition amongst the four goalies? Is it a guy with the inside track right now? He certainly has been brilliant over the last couple of years.
He's the one that, in terms of pedigree heading into this season, he was definitely the clear number one favorite. I think the issue will be Mathis Rousseau is probably the best goalie in the CHL right now. I don't have his numbers offhand, but it's like something ridiculous, like unbelievable numbers with the Halifax Moosehead. So I think it comes down to those two. As for a third goalie, Scott Retzlaff, a Buffalo Sabres prospect, 5th-round pick last year, probably the starter 2 years from now. But when they play in Ottawa, but he's got the inside track of Hockey Canada, where he played really well at the Hlinka Gretzky 2 years ago. So I think you can kind of go any of those three options and be happy. But if you're a Jets fan, I think you're going to be seeing your goalie of the future, your hopeful baby goalie of the future, get a couple starts here.
It's funny you mentioned Rousseau and St. Hilaire, the other two goaltenders. I mean, both of them are draft eligible this year. How many other players on the roster have not yet been drafted? And like right now, and realistically, how many draft eligible players might suit up for Canada when they drop the puck?
Well, see, with those two, they were passed over twice now, so they have had their opportunities.
Oh, I see. They're not that young. They just haven't been drafted.
Exactly. And the issue for both of them is they're really small goalies. I think they're both under 6 foot. In terms of who, Celebrini is definitely going to make this team. I would expect him to probably be, the first line center on this team. Rousseau, he's basically a lock at this point. In terms of other guys, I don't think Owen Allard out of Sault Ste. Marie or Marcus Vidicek out of Halifax are going to get drafted. They won't make the team or get drafted, I should say. With Allard, he's like one of the fastest skaters on this team, but the offense isn't there. And Vidicek is good, but he plays with Jordan Dumais, who does a lot of the producing there. And he's like an unbelievable talent, Columbus Blue Jackets prospect. He's on pace for like an off year for him, which is 130 points in the KHL. He had 140 last year for comparison. Dealt with injuries, but still, like that's a guy you're going to rely on. But when it comes to Vidicek and Allard, I don't see them making the team. And St. Hilaire, he's I don't want to say the third or fourth best goal in the QMJHL. I don't see him making this team.
Gotcha. Stephen Ellis of Daily Faceoff with us. Just before we move on to some Jet prospects on other teams and how the tournament's shaping up, I want to ask you about the Manitobans on the roster. Denton Matejchuk from Dominion City, I know reading your article, is poised to have a big role on the club. And of course, we're very familiar with Connor Geekie, who is also on the roster. Maybe fill us in on both of those players and their chances of not only playing for the team, but being impact players.
Well, they'll both be impact players, and they're both definitely making the team. Matejchuk might be Canada's best defenseman. Tristan Luneau might put up a fight there, but with Matejchuk, it's just, obviously, when you've got points in every game you've played this year, like, did Connor Bedard even do that last year? I can't remember for Regina. It's like what Matejchuk's doing as a defenseman is just unreal. You throw in Geekie there, who could be a big part of that top six, whether he plays of Savoy, whether he's a center on the second line. I'm not sure where they're going to throw him in, but his size, his reliability at both ends is going to come in very handy here. So if you're a fan of those two, you're going to get really excited about what they can do.
Obviously the Ice have moved on to now become the Wenatchee Wild. And I heard you mention Matt Savoy, who, was returned to junior. He'll be a very important player, getting finally a chance to represent Canada. But I did want to just ask you from your perspective. We talked a lot heading into last year's draft about Zach Benson, about these players that were from the Ice. What have you made about Zach Benson sticking with the big club up until this point, and Savoy moving down, and maybe transition that into, will Zach be available for this team and other NHL talent that is in the NHL that might get a chance to bolster Canada's roster?
First off, I missed the Winnipeg Ice branding. Great logos, great jerseys. Those were I missed that. Sorry, the Wild is not the same. That's also lame because we had the Minnesota Wild. When it comes to Benson, Playing above what I expected. Watching him those first few games with the Sabres, I did not think he was going to make it past the 9-game mark. And then the injuries, and it's like, okay, this looks like a guy destined to go play in the juniors. And then ever since he returned from his injury, he's been amazing for this team, way better than I thought. I was super high on Benson. I had him as the 5th best prospect for the draft. I knew he wasn't going to get drafted that high. I think I actually had him going to Buffalo anyways in my mock draft, but I thought he should have gone, top 5. Just you don't get guys with that much talent and that much skill show up all the time. And I wouldn't write him off of being loaned out to Canada. I think the one player now to watch would be Adam Fantilli, given that he's not getting a ton of ice time with Columbus right now. They're a tire fire. There's no point in keeping him around. I'm not sure what Pascal Vincent's doing there. It seems like every decision he makes with these young guys, whether it be Fantilli, whether it be Kent Johnson, whether it be Adam Yurchek, is just baffling to me. So it'd be interesting to see if Fantilli gets loaned out. As for others, I don't think Poitras is going. I don't think Korchinski's going. I think it's safe to say Bedard probably won't be loaned out. But with Benson, it's like, I think his situation still might be game to game and just see kind of what they think of. Now that Tage Thompson to their full lineup, do they need Benson? I'm not sure. Right now, he's playing well enough to be there, but I don't want to see him fall down the lineup when he can go here and be a leader on this team instead.
Yeah, and I think that, you're exactly right. Buffalo's in a pretty precarious situation right now. Their expectations were that this team would take a big step forward. And if he's contributing and they're winning, maybe they just say, Zach, you're an NHL player now. But it's not like they couldn't send him there for the month and then bring him back to Buffalo afterwards if there's room for him.
Yeah, so they could do that if they want to. Like we saw that with, I believe, Victor Mete a few years ago with the Montreal Canadiens. So that was a while ago now. But it's like the thing about this training camp is it's not uncommon where guys can be loaned out afterwards. It's asking a lot to make a player stick around. Playing the NHL, getting the rhythm of that, and then send him to the juniors where he might not play a game for like a week and a half. And those exhibition games against U Sports are great, but that's not the same as playing against, actual NHL competition. So my guess is, though, Canada wants to have their full roster heading into their trip to Sweden. Their camp will be done December 13th. I believe they're going to start planning to fly out the next day. I think they want to be fully ready, so they're not sending a player home that's already in Sweden. So I think, keep an eye on December 13th and 14th as to, that would probably be the cutoff, I'd say. But a guy that like Benson going here could benefit a lot from being a leader on this team, put up a lot of points, play with some good quality players. He'd probably play with Savoy. He'd probably play with Celebrini, and he could go out there and be a dominant player, potentially win a medal, and come back with all this momentum and all this ice time he's been playing with. But at the same time, he's making Buffalo a better team. You can't deny that. Buffalo might not want to change that.
Steven, let's move on to USA. Rutger McGroarty had that scary injury, hasn't played since. He's still Rutger McGroarty. We've seen him on Instagram, kind of having fun with his buddies. He is on the roster. What have you learned about his situation health-wise? And assuming he's able to play, how big of a role does he pencil in on Team USA?
I think it's noteworthy that they didn't bring Cole Eiserman, because Cole Eiserman would have been a good replacement for McGroarty in terms of just the offensive impact. The fact they're not bringing Celebrini must mean they think that he will be ready to go. Look at this last year. Lucius, also another Jets prospect, injured heading into camp, and he participated at the very end of camp in a red non-contact jersey. I think he'll still skate. To my understanding, he is supposed to participate in camp, but they don't necessarily need him for the pre-tournament. They don't need him for that. So if he's fully healthy to go for December 26th, I think he makes the team no matter what. And that does buy them some time. They don't have to worry about making sure he's ready for December 14th when that camp begins, or, December, I think, 17th when they cut the roster. They just need him to be ready for game 1 or game 2 or game 3. And that's good enough because he makes that much of a positive impact. They use 23-man rosters for the World Juniors, but teams will bring 25 players over and have 2 guys as extras. I think what would happen is if he was not ready, they would run the minimum roster until he's ready to go, and they go there. But from what I heard, it seems like at least there's some confidence he'll be able to play in this tournament.
Just team-wise, I'm just looking at this roster in your piece at DFO, and I think back to our conversations in Nashville. Gabe Perreault, Oliver Moore, Ryan Leonard, Nazar. I mean, there's a lot of first round talent on that team. How do they shape up on paper going into the tournament against a team like Canada?
USA, if they're not the favorite, it's got to be Sweden. That's how good USA is at this tournament. James Hagens is a guy that I think everyone's going to be shocked to see how good of a player he is. He'd be, maybe not a dominant player, but he'd be a high-end college player already. He's not eligible till 2025. He's a late 06 birthday, I believe, so he's you got to wait one more year. But just an incredibly smart player. And if that's your number one center and you put Will Smith as your second line center, like Will Smith was unbelievable last year, a top 5 prospect and deserving of playing a huge role. You got Cutter Gauthier on this team, you got Lane Hudson on defense. You've got 2 goalies that are starter caliber goalies in Jacob Fowler and Trey Augustine. I think Augustine, the Detroit Red Wings prospect, will get the advantage given that he was a starting goalie last year at this tournament. He's one of the best goalies that USA hockey has had in the last decade in terms of all the international competitions. But Fowler's been better this year in college. So you got 2 goalies that would be the starting goalie on almost any other team in this tournament. And then you've got, again, Lane Hudson, Seamus Casey, to the point where the top scoring player top scoring defenseman in the OHL, they didn't even bother bringing Hunter Bucevich, a Canucks prospect, because they didn't need him. They had so many scoring threats on the blue line. So this is as strong of an American team as we've seen in the past couple of years. And I think a good test will be that game against Canada in the pre-tournament.
You mentioned Sweden. I've got to ask you about our guy, Elias Salmonsson, who, had a very nice training camp, got into a little bit of preseason action, played with Josh Morrissey at times, and is now back playing with the big boys. How's his season been so far? What have you seen from him, and how big of a role does he project to have on the Swedish squad?
He's been good. I think he'll probably play more of a shutdown role in this line. Talking to some Swedish people, they think he's probably more like the 6th, 7th defenseman, but he's, we saw him play in the power play. We saw him play kind of in all situations at the World Junior Summer Showcase. I think with him, it's just the Sweden's got a good blue line, and they don't necessarily need to rely on him. But the way he played at that showcase, the way we've seen him kind of play internationally for Sweden, he's a guy that gets involved and you can rely on in a lot of situations. So I think he'll be. I'm not sure what his ice time is going to be, but he's gonna be someone that will turn some heads, I think.
Hey, it's great to catch up. And again, sorry about the tag team nature of pulling this off, but you know how things go. What are you going to have cooking heading into the tournament over at Daily Faceoff? I know this is a big month for everybody on the prospect grind.
Well, first off, I don't know if you saw, but there was a ECHL player today that just got suspended or kicked out of a game. Either kicked out of a game or 10-minute misconduct, not sure which one, for shooting a chicken nugget off the ice into the crowd. Not sure you hear a story like that ever again. We got a story coming up on DFO in a few minutes on that. But in terms of that, I'm going to have World Junior previews on every single team of the tournament, a list of the top 25 players to watch. I'll be at the Canada camp. I'll be at the American camp. We're going to have some local guys in Sweden covering in person for us, but there'll be daily coverage. So if you like World Junior stuff, basically every day starting next Monday until like January 7th or 8th, you're going to be seeing content on the website.
Where did this chicken nugget come from?
It was like a school day game, and some kid, I guess, threw it on the ice.
You ripped it into the crowd? Got teed up?
Yeah. He I guess the ref saw it, waved off the play, and then the player shot it right back in the crowd. It was like a Red Wings prospect, and shot it right back at a kid, and they gave him a 10-minute misconduct from the looks of it.
Nugget Gate. Wow. Didn't think that was going to be mentioned on the show today. Steven, have a great holiday season. Enjoy the tournament, and hopefully we can catch up with you again a little later on in the month for the latest on what's happening in relation to the World Junior Hockey Championship. We always love having you on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Thank you so much.
There it is, only in the ECHL. Kirill Tuchayev, a 10-minute game misconduct in the second period for flipping a chicken nugget back into the crowd. One of the kids had tossed it onto the ice. Toots decided to take care of it himself. Always something new in the world of sports. Great stuff from Steven. We're going to get on to the Jets coming up with Billeck right away. And, of course, the Jets on the road beginning tomorrow. But back in the South Asian Heritage Night is not this Saturday, but the following Saturday. Saturday night, Jets and Colorado Avalanche. And what a homestand that's going to be. The Montreal Canadiens coming into town on the 18th. The Boston Bruins on Friday night. If you don't have your tickets already and you've been waiting for some of the marquee games and teams coming in, now's a great time to do it. Go to winnipegjets.com/tickets. And of course, there's all sorts of excitement for the 48 jerseys, and I think there'll be a lot of those under the Christmas tree as well. You can find out more at winnipegjets.com on those, and hey, pop down to Royal Sports. They've always got those ready to go for you as well. If you're looking for great prices on natural and organic supplements, beauty products, and groceries, you know where to go. Vita Health Fresh Market. You can shop at any of the 6 Vita Health Fresh Market stores or online at myvita.ca to pick those up. And we just finished up Men's Health Month. And congratulations again to Joe, who is our big winner of the Trevor Linden jersey. Canada's #1 line of men's health supplements is available at all the Vita Health stores. Prairie Naturals, helping men address the challenges with prostate health, andropause, low libido, testosterone, stress, male energy, and performance. And again, they're on sale all month at Vita Health during November, but still available for you as you maybe look to, get 2024 off to a great start. Vita Health, empowering people to lead healthy lives. 6 locations in Winnipeg and online at myvita.ca. The gang at Wallace & Wallace have had a bonkers 2023. The leaders in fencing, and you've seen their trucks and fences all over the city as they've been the leaders since 1946. They're also the leaders in overhead garage doors. And that garage door has had a lot of ups and downs this summer and fall, but it's about to work a whole lot harder as we get into the Winnipeg winter, because winter puts much more stress on a garage door. The right time to prevent downtime this winter is now. Call Wallace & Wallace to book your inspection and maintenance service. Call today for residential and commercial overhead door sales and service. There's only one name or two you need to know, and that is Wallace & Wallace. And hey, speaking of the holiday season, guys, if you look into your closet and realize that maybe it's time to step your game up in the menswear department, maybe a sly suggestion of an F Apparel gift card to that special someone might be a perfect gift for you under the Christmas tree. Of course, they'll be having massive Boxing Day sales, just as they did for Black Friday. But the bottom line is you're going to get the best prices on the best looking custom-made suits and men's clothing to fit at the leaders in it all, F Apparel at 190 Smith Street downtown. Custom suits, chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories, all waiting for you. Gift cards on sale now as well. And don't forget, my pal Mo was just getting done up for his big wedding coming up in Friday. If you are in a wedding party, 15% discounts when the fellas get their suits at F Apparel. Tell them the WST boys sent you. And you can also make an appointment for a fitting and find out more information at F, that's EPH Apparel.com. All right, we're going to bring in Billeck in here in just a second. But Remo, expert navigation of the technical snafu that impacted our last segment.
Yeah, well, I don't know what happened. I think you just got removed from the room, and you just had to come back in. What'd you do? Internet issue? You just restart your computer?
No, I got completely blown out. My internet was down. Oh. I had to do a full reboot, and luckily it worked at the end. So we're back. We're ready to go for Billeck. But hey, just on the way in, I know we've got a couple clips. I wouldn't mind firing out number 2 from Kyle Connor, just because this is a huge game tomorrow and our first chance to see the Jets go head-to-head with the Avalanche. They haven't fared well, although 2 very close games against the Dallas Stars so far. And they're going to play Colorado in Denver tomorrow night. And as we mentioned, the Jets' next home game, Saturday night against the Colorado Avalanche on the 16th of December. Kyle Connor spoke after practice today, and here's a little bit from KFC on going up against the Avs.
Colorado there, we know what they're capable of. they got a tremendous team. They're really deep. They're obviously the team. Them and Dallas are the teams we're chasing in our conference right now, and it's going to take our best. They play a complete game. They're very lethal. I mean, they get their D's up. I mean, they got obviously a couple great players up front that can put the puck on the net. So it's going to take a full team effort, and nothing that we're not prepared for though. And we got all the confidence in the world in here. We play the right way. We're among those top teams in the league.
All right, well, a lot of confidence within that Jet room and certainly on that top line, but what a task to go up potentially head-to-head against Nate McKinnon and Cale Makar. Here's what KFC had to say on that.
Yeah, you almost, I don't want to say get up more for the game, but I mean, you see yourself on the ice with them or, across from them, and, you just want to, prove that, we're the better team, the better players, and, you got to be aware of it too, just their little tendencies and how they play. It can come in a factor a lot, and we embrace that challenge. I think we look forward to it. As a group, we love to see how we measure up against a team like that.
All right, so there's Kyle Connor, and here's one more from Kyle Connor, and this is kind of a nice segue into our conversation with Scott, because I do want to get his thoughts on, the progression of Connor Scheifele, now with Nikolai Ehlers on the wing. Here's what Kyle had to say about the latest on his line, now playing alongside 55 and 27.
They're two almost completely different players, but they are in a sense, right? Like, it's like Nick is known for his tremendous speed and his creativity. He opens up so much ice, and when he has the puck on his stick, he draws a lot of guys onto him when he's carrying that puck. So a little bit different attributes, but we've played with Nick before. We've had this combination for a little bit, so we knew what to expect. And it's last year we started off the training camp with me, Mark, and Nick, and that was
first game in a bit too,
yeah until Nick got hurt, and it's you can just see how much promise there is in that line if we play the right way, and how much potential it is, and so I'm looking forward to building on that. It seems like we're only getting better. We've had tons of chances, and we were lucky to pop a couple there last game, so hopefully we can build on it.
Go ahead, Jimmy. How much are you enjoying having Balharry on the top power play unit, Kyle?
Yeah, he's just in general, just having him back, it's been awesome. He seems like he dangles one or two guys a game. He's got that very crafty to put it, and even down low, he's very good in tight and just finds a lot of space. And even on the breakout too, he made the play to Scheif the other day, and he's just got that type of vision and type of ability. So we're excited. Everybody is, and for sure the power play helps out.
All right, so there's Kyle Connor, and what a look he's rocking these days. I know that he let us know in chat if any of you guys went down to another Jet legend, Joe Daly. And Joe Daly's spot had Kyle there last night, I believe, doing autographs and meeting fans and whatnot. And I did see a couple pictures, and it's just perfect that these people are going to have this photo of them with one of their favorite players right in the middle of his Joe Dirt era. And he's doing it on the ice right now. He can look however the heck he wants. I do. Listen, just from a hockey perspective, it's been really exciting to see the progression of this line with Ehlers and with Scheifele. And as we bring in Scott Billeck of the Winnipeg Sun, we will start right there, Scotty. Great to have you on the program. What have you thought of of this line? Now they've had a few games to play together. It seems like Ehlers is not an easy guy to play with, and it hasn't always worked in the past when they've tried to put him with Mark Scheifele. I'm not sure whether this is just a smaller sample, but certainly you saw in that game against a very good Carolina team, they were able to create space, and Kyle Connor talked about Nikolai Ehlers being able to do that and score a couple of absolute beauties.
Yeah, well, hey, Huss. Hello, chat. Hope everybody's doing well in the chat. Gearing up tonight's party at Little Brown Jug. I believe that's tonight, right?
That is. Hope we pop by and make a special guest appearance. Shake some hands, kiss some babies.
Indeed.
You can do what Kyle Connor did last night. Just sit in we can have the Scott Billeck photo booth with autographs all night.
There we go. I'll just do selfies all night and stuff like that. Yeah. No, but I agree. You look at. I was just looking it up while I was in waiting to come on, and just looking at their expected goals right now, which is second highest on the team. They've played a quarter of the minutes that the Appleton, Niederreiter, Lowry line has played. But the early returns are good, right? I mean, they're outscoring the opposition 2-1 at 5-on-5. But the possession numbers are good. The expected goals numbers are good. It seems to be working so far, right? And I think this is the line that they wanted to do last year, right? Like they wanted to start with this line last year and kind of run with it. And unfortunately, Nikolai Ehlers got hurt. I think he missed 38 games. And by the time they got back to it, it wasn't there for them. So it would have been interesting to see. I mean, obviously at the start of the season, it was almost Gabe Vilardi. That's who they wanted there on that top line. He gets injured a couple games into the season, and then now he's kind of on. He was on the shelf, and now he's kind of working his way back into the lineup here now, and working his way up. But he's just playing on the second line right now with Perfetti and Iafallo. So yeah, I like it. I like the idea. I mean, so you got two really good playmakers in Ehlers, and Kyle Connor alluded to it today. Saying that Ehlers is the type of guy who draws defenders to him when he gains the zone. I think we saw a lot of that in the Carolina game. It's just natural for guys to want to cover a guy that's flying through the zone like that. So it just opens up space, and I think Ehlers' goal was a great example of that, where he dishes it off in the neutral zone. They gain the zone. Kyle Connor feeds it down low to Scheifele. Then you got the low to high pass to Ehlers, who finds them off room in the slot and gets it done. It was a perfect goal. That's exactly what you want to see this line do. So, and that happened. It wasn't the greatest game in terms of all the metrics against Carolina, because Carolina is very much a shot-heavy team. But they did it against Carolina, right? Like this wasn't like one of the best defending teams in the NHL. They eked out that goal 5-on-5, and it was just a beautiful goal. That's skill, right? They outskilled some of the best defenders in the world. That Carolina seemingly has the most vaunted defense in the league, but they were able to do that. So I'm curious to see now going into Colorado against Makar and Taves and all those guys, are they going to be able to kind of sort of replicate that? And it's a big test for this team tomorrow. But I like the attitude of this team today. They're not. It's the old Conor McGregor line, right? We're not just here to take part. We're here to take over. And I think they're going into Denver. With the idea, they are going into Denver with the idea of they don't want to just be there as a participant in this game. They want to go in and show that they, and Connor said himself, have the better players and are the better team on the night. So it's going to be a really interesting game against the two of the best teams, obviously in the division, in the conference, and even the league. And it's going to be a barn burner, I think.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up this game tomorrow night. And obviously the challenge, assuming Makar good to go. It is a great measuring stick game for the Jets and a very different challenge than the Dallas Stars are. I mean, I remember Brendan Dillon talking about the game, about Dallas before, and he said, hey, listen, we've showed that we can play and run with a lot of different teams, and we can go against these young teams and skate with everyone. We're looking forward to challenging the more boring game of Dallas, and I'm just quoting him on that. No one calls the Avalanche boring, and this has the potential of being one of the most exciting games we've seen in a long time. But a chance for the Jets with that new top line, to use an MMA reference, to go toe to toe, strike for strike with the team that has a hell of a lot of firepower and definitely packs a punch.
Yeah, I mean, we're a year and a half removed from team winning the Stanley Cup, right? I mean, this is a Colorado team that had a little bit of change. Obviously, they don't have their captain, Gabriel Landeskog, in the lineup. But they're so talented. It's not, you take a guy like Landeskog out for the last couple of years now, last year and a bit, and you still have Makar and Rantanen and McKinnon and Tate. You got all these guys, right? Like, it's a deep team, right? I mean, I think if there's anything about this team that you look at and you're kind of like a little suspect about, it's their goaltending, right? But at the same time, Georgiev, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is still leading the league in wins. His stats aren't that great, but you're playing against a team that can pretty much be malleable. Like they're maybe the more malleable team in the league. They can defend, they can run and gun with you if they want to, and they have just so many game breakers, right? And so. Yeah, it's a great test for this Jets team. And Brendan Dillon said it well this morning. Like, these are the types of games you want to play early in the season. And I took that to kind of believe that like you want to play the Dallases early, you want to play the Vegases early, you want to play the Colorados early, the Floridas, the Tampas, like the teams that are Boston. They haven't played Boston yet, but you want to play those because you get a sense of kind of where your team is at, where you can improve, and you're doing that early, right? It's not like it's backloaded, so you're kind of like going into those games later on in the season, let's say maybe even after New Year's, and you haven't really had any of those tests. Sure, they've come out on the wrong side of some of those games. The Dallas ones, obviously, the Vegas ones. They beat Florida twice now, and now they're going to face Colorado for the first time this year. So I think, again, going back to what Brendan Dillon was talking about, trying to take something, the positives, trying to fix the mistakes that they made against some of these top teams. Obviously, Colorado, and you alluded to it, kind of offers a different challenge. It's not a boring game, as you said, where Dallas is very much more suffocating. I think there'll be a little bit more room to work with the Jets. But we're watching a Jets team that's never been as good defensively since probably 6-7 years, and I'm interested to see how that matches up against a very heavily offensive team in the Colorado Avalanche. And so it's a good test for this structure, this team defense. The thing this team has really kind of prided itself on this season through the first 23 games or however many they've played now, 24 games I think now, and it's ridden them. They're up to 14 wins. The Jets are now, and a large number of those wins have been done in a way that is really complementary to the style of the system that they're playing and that sort of thing. So I think this system gets another test tomorrow to see how they can do. And they bent quite a bit against Carolina, but they didn't break. Brendan Dillon said it perfectly this morning. They don't want you have to bend right against Colorado. You want to go in there and impose your style of play in your game, and let basically another team kind of skip to its loo, right? So I think it's good attitudes, right? You're hearing the right things from the players, and we'll see what happens tomorrow night in Denver.
A couple things to get to coming out. I kind of want to focus on the blue line, but first off, LB on Monday.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was so dialed in. I mean, he honestly, to me, looked like an entirely different goalie than we'd seen in his previous starts this year. From your perspective, certainly that adds a lot of confidence to the team. But for him to not do that against Chicago, but to do it against Carolina, and I wasn't sure that's the way that they were going to go with the rotation. In your opinion, how important of a performance was that for Laurent Brossoit as we get into a point in the season with back-to-backs next week and some more big starts for him coming in when Hellebuck won't be in the blue paint?
I'll tell you, that's because I talked to LB this morning. So I had a good chat with him, trying to get a sense of where he's at, like what changed, right? And he said, if you're going back, he said it started just before the Nashville game. He was starting to feel himself, bad phrasing. He was starting to feel better about his game, and had played. He called it a stinker, the one that he allowed in Nashville. And fair play to him. I mean, he owned that goal and whatever. But he said he felt right in his body, and this is something you hear from LB a lot. He likes to talk a lot about his body feeling right and all that. It's all connected, right? It's all about energy and stuff like that for Laurent Brossoit. So talking to him this morning, I mean, the thing that he tried to do this summer was add some stuff, and he kind of admitted it to me. He's like, one of the drawbacks in his game, he said, is that, or his kind of weaknesses, as he put it, is that he tries too hard to try and, or he tries too much. He tries to fine tune the game almost so much that you kind of over crank it a little bit sometimes, and that throws it out of whack. And so the things that he tried to do during the summer to try and improve his game, he said it actually became a hindrance to him to the start of the year. When I asked him, because I asked him, I didn't ask him to explain why he had a couple bad starts to start the year, but I was, there's obviously a big difference between his play on Monday against Carolina and his first 5 starts before that. So, it was really interesting to kind of hear him talk about, like, he had to basically dial it back and take those things that he tried to improve basically out of his game, right? It's almost like uninstalling an update on your computer. He basically had to do that to try and get back to where he was. He said around the Nashville game is where he got it. And it's been interesting. I mean, one of the things that he said too was, just talking about like last year, the way that he kind of came into the playoffs and then played that first round, like he was in a different mind state. Like you're playing every night. And so you're so dialed in all the time that you're not really thinking about anything else, right? But right now he's playing once every 10 days, maybe once a week, once every 10 days. And that's been a bit of an issue for him. And he's had to readjust to that as well. So been a bit of a process for Laurent Brossoit. And so, you talk to him and you start realizing like, yeah, this guy's been through a bit of a change and trying to get just back. He obviously had the injury at the end of the playoffs there. And so he was just, again, dealing with that through the summer and then getting healthy and all that. So yeah, it's interesting, but I think, he said like that game was huge for him, right? Like that was a big game for him. And he felt like it was coming. And it should have came in the Nashville game. But just the way that, you let that one soft one in and that was it. So, it feels like he's kind of back in a space now, like a head space, and even in a physical space now, where he feels good about his game again. And that can only benefit the Jets going forward.
Well, that's big time because we know Hellebuyck has really sort of emerged after non-Hellebuckian first couple of weeks of the season. And LB is going to drop starts like that when he's getting in the net. That is a very good development for the Winnipeg Jets. Let's move over to the blue line. By the way, somebody was asking in chat about Makar's status. He did not play last night. Right. He was out. I mean, I would imagine that they would be hopeful he'll play tomorrow, but I think we're going to basically have to wait until game time to see whether he's good to go. Sam Girard as well, day-to-day on that blue line. And I think Bowen Byram, who played last night, he got nicked up during the game and only played 15 minutes, and he has an injury designation. So they may have some issues on the blue line, which maybe the Winnipeg Jets can take advantage of. Speaking of the blue line, thoughts on Declan Chisholm and Logan Stanley getting in it. And I guess the reason I bring up Stan is that Bruce Garriock had a piece in your sister publication, the Ottawa Sun. The teams are kicking tires, and I didn't think much of it at the time, Scott. But once you hear that being reported, you wonder whether this was maybe another opportunity to showcase a little bit of Logan Stanley. And he did play quite a bit. When we looked at the numbers afterwards, it was almost surprising the amount of time he was out there on the ice against the Canes.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like and at the time you're like, okay, well, are they shopping him again? Like, is that why he's in the lineup? And sometimes the joke is, well, maybe don't play him if you're trying to shop him, because sometimes when he plays, he doesn't really do himself any favors sometimes. And, and I thought, Declan Chisholm, in my opinion, he played a great game in that first game against Chicago. And then you go the 11-7 route against Carolina. I was like, okay, well, what's this going to look like? Is Stanley just getting the game because they haven't played him? But then you see after the first period, he played basically 2 more minutes than Chisholm played in that period, right? And then over the game, I don't remember what the final number was, but he played more than Chisholm in the game as a whole. And so, if they're trying to trade him, sure, put him out there, see what happens. And it looks like they're going to play him tomorrow night too. And from line rushes this morning at practice, he was with Stamberg. And so unless you think Stamberg's taking a seat, and I don't, it looks like they're practicing with Logan Stanley.
Well, the funny thing was,
Stamberg
Scott, from yesterday, from that game on Monday, he actually finished with 1 more second of ice time than Stamberg did, and Stamberg played 3:22 shorthanded, and Stan played 46 seconds. So he even got more ice time. Now, partly I think because there was a couple long shifts due to icings, where they had to stay on and, were in their zone a little bit more. But they certainly didn't just bring him out and give him a token 4 or 5 shifts.
Oh, and so that would sort of what make kind of the Garriock thing make a little more sense now, right? Because, if you're going to play him, and I thought that they were playing him in situation even during the game, but, at the time I just, you're running 7 guys and you're just going with the guys that are hot late in the game because you want to make sure you're shutting that game down in the third period with a 1-goal lead, right? So, it's a curious thing now because I think, they're running into a bit of a nightmare here coming up because if Ville Heinola is starting to skate, obviously he's a little ways off still. There's plenty more things that he's got to do, including putting more pressure on his foot than those little light skates that he's doing. It's great to see him skating.
He'll play for a few weeks in the Moose for sure.
Exactly. So there's a lot of runway here before Ville Heinola gets back up to the Jets and playing. But you do have to start thinking about it because at some point you're going to have to expose one of them, right? Unless you decide that you're going to put Nate Schmidt down and waive him, which I don't think they're going to do. I know some people are like, okay, we'll do that, but you got to think of, and this is a bit of a sidebar here, but like Nate Schmidt's not going to get waived from this team. Like they had to convince him to come here. The waive is no trade. Like this, the Jets have built up some pretty good will this season with the signings of Niederreiter, getting Scheifele and Hellebuck locked up. Like the last thing you want to do is probably it'd be a bit of a negative. Is it good or better for the team? It might be if you're not planning on playing Schmidt a lot. But at the same time, I think you have to also look at optics with this team as well, especially going into the trade deadline. If this is a team that's going to have a chance, and Kevin Cheveldayoff's going to be a buyer. But yeah, back to the thing. Like I think you got to figure out because if you don't trade a Chisholm or a Stanley, you're probably going to lose one of them on waivers anyways because you're going to have to put one through waivers. You're not going to carry 9 deep, right? Once they're all healthy, they could send Ville down. But if they are trying to trade Stanley, that's a good sign, in my opinion, that they expect Ville to be up here and playing. And so to be all, by all accounts, he deserves his chance once he's healthy again. He didn't get out of the lineup for any reason, but just a freak accident, right? And busts his ankle and then has to have surgery and all that crap. So, yeah, it makes some sense then. But at some point, then you just got to pull. Like I don't know what the ask is for Stanley. It probably can't be that high. And if you look at what, obviously Stanley doesn't have Zadorov money or anything like that. But, if you're going to get him, just, get your pick and run. You're not going to get a first rounder for him. Probably not getting a second rounder. I'd be surprised even if you get a third. But if you got to make space, you shave $1 million off the cap right now. And then you start playing a guy like Chisholm, who I think, in my opinion, plays better to this system, the Rick Bowness' system, than Stanley does. Like Stanley doesn't move the puck like Declan Chisholm does, and it was clear in that Chicago game that Declan Chisholm was the better defender in my opinion. So we'll see what happens.
Certainly better with the
puck. At some point, they're going to have to make a decision, right?
Yeah.
I think he's even better physically. Chisholm's not going to drill people, but Logan doesn't really use that. And there was times in those games, in Monday's game where I'm like, Chisholm looked aware of his surroundings and Logan Stanley did not. And so, yeah, I don't know what else to say. At this point, this team needs to make a decision on Logan Stanley because I'm sure he still wants out. If I had to guess, this is a guy who's barely playing. He thinks he should be playing. Maybe he wants a shot somewhere else. Give it to him, right? At this point, this team doesn't seem like they're going to be the ones to give him the shot that he wants anymore. And they have two guys that are knocking at the door. And I think Declan Chisholm is on the same level as him now. So, yeah, it's
to
the
me,
whole
to me,
crap
it's to me
pot.
when we talk about this, we have to think about the long play and the playoffs. And we kind of got into this a little bit yesterday. And this is true, but Craig Heisinger told me this back in the old Moose days, and Kevin Cheveldayoff, I think, even up the ante. Zinger used to say, hey, you want to win a Calder Cup, you need to have 10 defensemen that you can put in there. I think Chevy said at one point it's a dozen. Because, hey, if you're going to go the distance, there's a lot of guys that move out. Like, I don't think that they want to just give him away for the sake of getting him off the roster. And to be perfectly honest, if what we're talking about is a mid-round pick, are they better off having him in the press box in case of emergency break glass, or having that fourth round pick or whatever?
Eventually.
Well, this is the thing. When Ville Heinola comes back, some sort of decision has to be made, because those guys probably would get picked up off waivers. And that's why we got back to the topic about Nate Schmidt. And the funny thing about Schmidt is, and I know people, especially in Winnipeg, there's so much focus on how much a guy makes. And is Nate Schmidt making way more money than the value that he's bringing? Absolutely, we get it. But when you look at the results of him playing with Dylan Samberg this year, they've been fine. I mean, they haven't been getting victimized. Yeah. They haven't gotten burned. And well, the third pairing minutes. Well, guess what? If he's in the lineup, he's going to be on the third pairing. So that's where it is. Yeah. So, I think the Jets love where they're at right now with the depth that they have in defense. If anything, they'd love to add an impact player that can go in and move people down the depth chart that slides into the top 4, preferably on the right side. But there is an issue with keeping guys in the press box for too long, especially younger players like a Chisholm that finally got in for the first time on Saturday. And I do understand your point where a guy that waves a no move to come here and, has been, by all accounts, a great teammate, a guy that, people like. But at some point, those tough decisions need to be made. And if Nate Schmidt did get waived, I think, it would be more because they said, we've got some young players that we need to get. Nate's going to be there. We can bring him in. And the check still clears, Scott. That's the one thing. The check is still going to clear for Nate Schmidt to keep him around. So it is really fascinating. And I'm not sure this is much of a big topic. I mean, it is. We're talking about it this week because both of these guys have gotten into the lineup and got a chance to play a little bit. And Nate has been the guy that's been in the press box. And presumably will be again on the weekend because they know what they have in Nate Schmidt. And I think they know that he can come back in. Right now is the time where they need to figure out what they've got in Declan Chisholm first and foremost. Logan Stanley, if he's going to be around or potentially moved or whatever, needs to play a few games as well. And once you get to presumably probably sometime in mid-January maybe that Philly is able to rejoin the team and get his opportunity, at some point you have to do something, and you probably can't wait till the rosters expand after the trade deadline to do that.
Yeah, I mean, so this is the thing, right? The last thing you want to do here is trade Logan Stanley and let's say whoever gets injured, right? From the top 6. And then, obviously you have Nate Schmidt that you can put back in or Chisholm, depending on how they're doing it. To your point, they are dealing from a position of strength, I think, right? They don't have to make a move right now until Villy is knocking on the door to get back in the lineup, which, as you said, and I think most of us feel is not going to be until after the new year. And anything can happen, of course. But, I think just the way it's going right now, we're already at December 6th right now. There's going to be a little bit of break. You still got to skate, and then you're going to want him to play conditioning games. So it's an interesting spot to be in. I think if the Jets are going to go into the trade deadline, though, and if you're looking that far down the road, you probably want Nate Schmidt for the run, right? I think you would keep him around for the playoff run. I think he adds some valuable experience in that regard, and is a player that can come in and will be itching and motivated to do well if he gets into the lineup at that time. I also could see, again, and you kind of alluded to this too, I think they would look for another defenseman as well. So, get the $1 million off the books now, start accruing more space and go from there. I just think with Logan Stanley, we're talking, he was drafted in 2016. It's been 7 years. And
he's not a prospect anymore.
To suggest, no, not even that. But I don't even think he's, I don't even know. I think we've seen the ceiling for him. I think other teams are going to obviously like to look at him because of his size. But he just doesn't fit in the way that this team plays the game, right? He is not the guy that moves up the ice in the same way that Declan Chisholm does. He is not the type of defender that defends in the same way, and I would argue in a better way than Declan Chisholm does right now. And then you look down the road, and I don't think he's better than Nate Schmidt either. So, Nate Schmidt's struggled, but as you said, and I think this is one of the things that
I don't think he struggled this year.
Nate Schmidt having a tough year. Sorry?
I don't think he struggled this year at all.
No. I think he's played really well with Samberg. I think that is a pairing that you could go to if you needed to, because it works well together. Those two are sort of attached at the hip. I mean, it's kind of master and protege. Like Nate Schmidt has been really doing a good job of taking Dylan Sandberg under his wing. It's one of the stories that we haven't necessarily gotten to, I guess, this year, but it is happening in that room. And you can see the chemistry on the ice. I think they play well together. But, at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, this is a team that has some decisions to make. It's a good kind of headache, if you want to call it that, or whatever, to have. But I think one thing we've seen with this team is it's way more willing to give some of these young players chances. I think this is a hallmark of Rick Bowness's tenure here so far. This wasn't the case under Paul Maurice. And so I think they loved what they saw in Billy. So when he's ready to go, I think he's going to be back in the lineup. And so, yeah, I mean, at this point, we'll see what happens.
You know what?
I think there's teams out there that'll want him. We'll go from there.
Well,
yeah,
and speaking of Stanley, I think as opposed to some sort of a mid-round pick, if there was an interest in Stanley to come in and, play in the top 6 for a team, and they had not an A-level prospect, but, a guy that's maybe played a little bit in the National Hockey League, but that is waiver exempt, that you could put to the Moose, like that would make a lot of sense, because then, you're basically taking that roster problem and taking care of it. You're buying yourself a little bit of time with this other player, whether he sits around and turns into something long-term or not. And let's not forget about Capobianco, who's playing very well right now with Manitoba, and is a guy that would almost assuredly be a call-up for a Black Ace role, if need be, if the Manitoba Moose aren't playing right now. So, listen, and your point, and listen, Cheveldayoff's done this a number of times, kind of pulled one out of his hat. And if they're incoming calls right now, as opposed to outcoming calls, I would think that the chances of maybe making something happen on that really does work for the Winnipeg Jets in the short term when it comes to the roster, and then gives them some insurance, because let's face it, this Logan Stanley will be an insurance policy down the stretch and in the playoffs if this team gets to where they want to go. What's the latest on Nemestikov?
Yeah, I didn't practice today. It's funny, no coaches talked today either. So, it seems like the status quo. He skated a little bit yesterday morning in their sort of really optional skate for basically scratches and some of the injured guys, but he left early from that skate. I was talking to some people today. It doesn't sound like there's been a setback or anything like that. It's just that he's not expected to play tomorrow. And so the eye is now on next Tuesday's game, potentially to get it, or not, sorry, next Tuesday, on Sunday's game against Anaheim. Would be a potential kind of the next target for him. It's a weird one. I don't know what's actually, I mean, they've called it a lower body injury. I don't know what happened. I thought he took the knee to the head from, what's his name? Darnell Nurse in that Edmonton game. And that was the one that caused it when he was in that, but it seemed to happen before that in that same kind of little, scrap. And it wasn't even a scrap. It was just a bit of a tangle up there, but yeah, so it looks like he's still, he won't play tomorrow. I'm very doubtful that he'll play tomorrow, and then they'll see on Sunday against Anaheim.
And I guess with no coaches today, we don't really know what the plan is, whether they're thinking 11-7 again on against the Avalanche, whether it's going to be Stan in with Sandberg and Chisholm and Schmidt on the outside looking in. So we'll be paying attention to that out of Denver tomorrow. I believe Mike's going to be there, so we'll see what he's got to say about that.
Yeah.
Scotty, great stuff as always. Hopefully we'll see you tonight for a pint and some good times.
Yeah, I'll come down. Yeah, I'll spend a few minutes there with the boys, and obviously the chat. Hopefully,
bring your Sharpies, everybody. Bring your Sharpies and the Billeck rookie card. You can get autographs.
I was playing with one while I'm doing it. So
for a guy that signs as many autographs
as coincidence.
You always have the Sharpie with you. That's basically how that works.
I'm literally. I'll sign my camera right now.
Hey, the dude that we want to see pick up a Sharpie and sign the biggest deal ever, Shohei Ohtani. We're going to be talking about that in just a second. Thanks for doing this, man. Well, we'll chat about that tonight, I'm sure. For a strange thing, in the middle of December, we'll be getting together with everyone, and it won't just be about hockey and the home team as we continue to refresh our Twitter feeds to see what's up. We're got Josh Goldberg coming on right away to chop that up. Thanks for doing this, dude.
Yeah, anytime, Austin. We'll see
All
you
right,
there,
we'll
too.
see you tonight. Good stuff with Scotty Billeck. We are going to talk about Ohtani Watch coming up in just a second. Before we do that, a big thanks to our friends at Princess Auto. And folks, with the holidays here, you got to get down to Princess Auto and check out the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you or that special someone from your holiday list needs to complete the project on their list or start something new is at Princess Auto. You can see them on Panet Road or Portage Avenue West, and you can always shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. A big thanks to our friends at Boston Pizza. I know we're going to get a few large pies rolling in, so everyone can grab a slice in the midst of the revelry and the delicious pints over at Little Brown Jug. And then tomorrow night, be a great night to get to BP. Usually I'm so fired up for the Jet games on the Thursday nights because you can get the Boston Pizza. We watch the Thursday night football game. We get the hockey game on, a little bit of a later start, which is nice. I'm not sure I would suggest to anybody to actually watch a Bailey Zappi, Mitch Trubisky quarterbacking matchup, but it'll at least be on the TV. But more importantly, we'll be able to enjoy those ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and more. And of course, great prizes to be won for NFL football for Mondays and Thursday nights at your local Boston Pizza as well. And a special thanks to BP for their support of our Christmas cheerboard fundraiser tonight. We'll see you later on at Little Brown Jug. And hey, the holidays are here. And if you want to spend more time doing fun holiday stuff as opposed to shopping, may I suggest get down to Royal Sports and you can pretty much take care of all of your Christmas shopping for any sports fans in your circle in one stop. It is the biggest and best sports store anywhere with the massive capacity and stock that only Royal Sports has. New 48 jerseys that we saw on Monday night. Want those under the tree? Royals got them. All sorts of Jets jerseys personalized with your favorite player on them. And thousands of pieces of Winnipeg Jets merchandise, tons that you won't find anywhere else other than Royal Sports. Add in a massive bomber section, all the NFL gear. Who knows? Maybe we'll have some Ohtani Blue Jays jerseys on the rack by the time we get to the 25th of December. We'll see about that. Of course, international soccer, NBA, and the biggest and best hockey selection in town, as Royal's been doing it for over 40 years. Pop down and see them, 750 Pembina Highway, and make sure to follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina for the latest merchandise drops, sale information, and great holiday gift ideas. All right, let's get to it, because as much as we love talking hockey at this time of year, it is baseball right now that is dominating most of the sports conversations. And we bring in our pal Josh Goldberg from The Score for the latest on the vibes in TO as the clock keeps ticking on Shohei Ohtani. Josh, what's up? It's great to have you back on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Yeah, good to be with you, Hustler. Yeah, things are definitely, there's a lot of energy, a lot of buzz around the Blue Jays right now, which is good considering the way that the season ended.
Yeah, listen, the season, what are you talking about? We don't even remember that anymore. It's all about 2024 and what the big moves the team's making. For you that's covered this team for a long time, what were your thoughts? Like, if I'd asked you this, hey, what are the chances the Jets, the Jays would really be in on Ohtani? If I'd asked you that a month ago, what would you have said? And at what point did that maybe change?
Realistically, I probably would have said in on no. Like, I'm interested, yes, but a serious contender, probably not. I for the longest time just thought that this was the Dodgers. Like, it was just a fait accompli, basically, that, and it may still be that way, but I just sort of looked at it as other teams would take a crack at it, but it just seemed preordained for the better part of a couple of years that the Dodgers were clearing the decks to make the run at him. And he's just it's just such a strange situation where nobody really knows anything about him. He's a real mystery. The only thing that people know is that he's as unique of a talent as maybe there's ever been in the game of baseball. And with the way that the game is these days, his value is just so high, even with some uncertainty about some injuries when it comes to pitching beyond next season. But he's just, nobody really knows what makes him tick. And, was it pitching in a big market? Was that something that was going to appeal to him? Nobody really knew. And, the Blue Jays have done a nice job over the last couple of off seasons, I think, sort of establishing themselves as a team to be taken seriously when it comes to free agents and when it comes to trades. I don't think that they're this franchise that should be looked at with a side eye or anything like that anymore. Like, they have the resources, they have the backing to make these kinds of moves. They have the development center, the performance center at their spring training facility in Dunedin, which is obviously a huge selling point. Allegedly, Ohtani and the Blue Jays met there. There's a lot to like. So they've done a really good job of making this something to take seriously, and they do deserve some credit for that. But ultimately, you got to get it over the finish line, or nobody's really going to give you much praise when it's all said and done.
It is fascinating how things have changed. I do a betting show with Dustin Nielsen before the lock shop every day. And last Tuesday, we were kicking around, and I kind of saw a couple things that, a couple people tweeted out Ohtani. And I'd always been someone that had thought that there was a lot of reasons why Toronto should be a spot that a player like that might consider. I jumped on him at 25-1 odds. It's now plus 150. There's a lot that's changed. And listen, later on that day, I think it dropped to 10 or 5-1 as well. But how would you categorize the information that's come out and how things have changed apparently over the course of the past week, really putting the Jays in as serious contenders, if not finalists, for his services?
I think right now, if you were handicapping it, I think it's the Dodgers or the Jays. I think that the Angels, some people seem to think that there's a situation and where he might go back there. For the life of me, I can't see that one at all. He's talked about wanting to have more success, and the Angels just aren't set up for it anytime soon. So, the fact that the Jays have worked themselves into a position where they can be looked at as one of two teams to get the biggest star in baseball, somebody who's won MVP 2 of the last 3 years, and arguably could have won it 3 straight years if it weren't for Judge having a historically great home run season last year. They have really done a lot of work here in the past week, and I don't really know where it's going to go. Like, I wouldn't be surprised anymore if they ultimately ended up landing him, which is a far cry from what it would have been 7-10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that. So they've definitely done some good work. And I think that Toronto is an appealing city to somebody like that. Yeah, he's going to be recognized if he walks down the streets of Toronto. I think you could say that about Los Angeles as well. But I think that there's a lot to like about living in Toronto in the summer. Like, a lot of people say, oh, well, Toronto in the winter. Shohei Ohtani is going to be nowhere near Toronto in the winter. So Toronto has a lot going for it beyond just the baseball team that would give somebody like that a lot to think about and a lot to chew on when considering making a decision of this magnitude.
He is such a phenom, a unicorn, a star that transcends the sport of baseball and transcends North American sport as well. I'm of the opinion that whoever signs him for whatever the number is, and it's going to be insane, is going to be the best money ever spent, because this contract is going to pay for itself, assuming that he plays the length of the contract, will pay for itself in so many different ways. Considering Rogers Corporation, sports and media, owning Sportsnet, owning the Blue Jays, having the games, talk to us about the impact that he would have to the Blue Jays business and bottom line, and what it means for the Mother Corp, and why this is a no-brainer to do everything you can to get this guy.
Yeah, just a tremendous windfall, I think, in terms of merchandise. You're tapping into a huge market overseas in Japan. Games will be on there. You're getting more resources. You're getting more merchandise revenue from that section of the world, which you probably don't have. I guess you have Kikuchi, but it's not nearly the same appeal. And I think that one of the big reasons that the Jays were committed to making a big splash this offseason, whether it's Ohtani or, they were linked to Juan Soto as well in a trade, is they have to really do some work to get their fans excited, because the way that the last couple of years have gone, I think a lot of fans are somewhat jaded that the Blue Jays haven't been able to get over the hump in the playoffs. And they've got these big renovations. I think they sunk $300 million or something around that into the Rogers Center, and ticket prices have gone up. And it's a hard sell if season ticket holders are having a 10 or 15% increase in their packages, and you're fielding largely the same team with some surface type of upgrades. You're kind of moving the deck chairs around and not doing any legitimate foundational work. And I think that ownership in the front office recognize that that's a factor. And I do think that beyond the obvious on-field impact that Ohtani will make, the Rogers Center will be, if not sold out early in the season. It's always tough to draw in April in Toronto, but they will do a lot better in terms of attendance. Even this past year in September, there was some apathy with the way that the team was playing. They weren't selling out, even though they were in a race to make the playoffs. I don't think you're going to have that problem as long as Shohei Ohtani is on the field and producing. People are going to pay money to see him. He's one of the few players in Major League Baseball that's worth it. And to have that 81 times a season can't go unmentioned when you consider the factors that might be at play when it comes to this whole situation.
Well, you know what, Josh? I mean, in addition to ticket sales and merchandise sales, which would be through the roof, like there hasn't been very many times in the past 5-10 years where I have been envious of people that are in charge of selling TV and radio in today's current climate. That would change in a heartbeat for their television properties, their radio properties, Blue Jays broadcasts, additional programming. The Blue Jays properties outside of Canada, particularly in Japan, never mind what you might be able to get in corporate sponsorship. I always laughed, the A's were drawing nobody, and you'd see the Angels go in to play at the Coliseum, and all of the billboards and everything are for Nippon and, Japanese companies, because you are adding millions and millions of people that are watching your games now. I mean, there's levels to this, and every one of them is massive for Rogers at the end of the day if he becomes a Blue Jay.
Yeah, I think that it's just such a huge factor when you look at this whole thing, and it has to be part of the equation. Like, obviously, Ross Atkins is looking at the on-field aspect and what he can bring to the organization from a baseball standpoint. But ownership is looking at, it sounds like the only way you're getting into a conversation as a finalist or a serious contender is if you're prepared to fork over, I think, at least $500 million. I think it's probably going to be more. We'll see what kind of structure of the contract. Yeah, it could be 6. We'll see what the structure of the contract is, with incentives and protecting yourself if he's not able to pitch as much as you want or at all, right? You never know how these things can go. But I think he's going to secure quite a lot of money. And the ownership's not looking purely at the baseball perspective. They're looking at the business side of this. And Shohei Ohtani is a business unto himself. He transcends just what goes on the field, like you talked about in terms of TV, radio, just overall coverage. The Blue Jays become more of a spotlight franchise in Major League Baseball. And you could say, oh, well, is Major League Baseball really that excited about the prospect of Ohtani not going to Los Angeles or Chicago, let's say, and going to Toronto? Maybe not. I don't know how much stock I necessarily put into stuff like that. But I think that when ownership is considering making this level of investment, they realize, the opportunity, the unique situation a player of this caliber and this scope brings. And I think that that's why they're seemingly so committed to making it happen.
Listen, the Jays in Toronto, certainly not by any means a small market. And some would argue they, in fact, have the biggest market in Major League Baseball, because the entire country of Canada is Blue Jays territory, if you will. Less for buying tickets, but certainly for television properties and all of that. And I think there's always been a stigma for Toronto where, oh, do guys really want to come there? It's funny. In some ways, you can kind of compare it to us here in the National Hockey League in Winnipeg, the smallest market. There's always, oh, Pierre-Luc Dubois wants a trade. He was going to go somewhere else. And that's perpetuated outside of the market, like, oh, no one wants to be there. And then you kind of look at the history of the Winnipeg Jets, re-signing their players, Hellebuck and Scheifele doing it. And I mean, that was huge to changing the narrative and getting people to pay attention that that's not necessarily true. What would the long-term, for years to come, the long-term effects of Ohtani choosing the Blue Jays be for the organization as to how they're viewed amongst Major League Baseball as well as other players if he could go anywhere he wants for a record contract and chooses north of the border?
Huge. I don't think we can really overstate how huge, massive it would be. The Blue Jays have made some splashes in their history over the years, certainly over the past couple of years. They've really jumped into the pool. They gave the biggest contract in team history a couple of years ago to George Springer, but this is on a whole other level. That was $150 million. You're talking about giving, 4 times that, 3 to 4 times that to Ohtani. It's a whole, you're swimming in the deep end of the pool. Maybe you were sort of in the middle with the Springer move, but this is a whole other level. And I think it sends a message to players in Major League Baseball that, the Blue Jays are prepared to spend. And if a player of this caliber and of this spotlight and this level of star chooses to go to Toronto, there must be something about that franchise and about that organization and about that city, that fan base, et cetera, that is appealing, and maybe something that, certain players wouldn't have given a ton of consideration to, or only maybe given fleeting consideration to, might be more prepared to really look at the Blue Jays as a team to pay attention to and to put on their thought process, or in their thought process of something to look at and consider when, they may or may not have the opportunity to test free agency.
What would the domino effect be for the actual roster if Ohtani does sign? I mean, there had been talks. I mean, we'd heard that potentially teams were kicking tires on Bo Bichette. I mean, there's 2 years left of he and Vladdy, and that really looks like a pretty nice window to make a run at a World Series, especially if you add a player like Shohei. Maybe if they get him, what does that change? And if they don't get him, how active might management be on tweaking this roster outside of bringing in the biggest fish on the market?
I think that Ross Atkins has really made it clear that they're looking at the next 2 years as it's imperative on them to do everything possible to ensure that they have the level of success that obviously the organization wants, but the fan base expects now as well. So I think you're not seeing Vladdy getting moved or Bichette getting moved if you get Ohtani. I think, long term, we'll see. I don't know if you could necessarily keep all 3 of those players, but I don't think it's something that you would really have to worry about, at least for this year, and probably not for next year as well. And they don't get him and Soto goes to the Yankees, you're in a difficult position because you've really made it clear that you're looking to make a huge splash this offseason and really change the fabric of your team. And free agent wise, there's just not going to be that level of impact out there. It's just not realistic. Soto's the big domino on the trade market, and it would be a tough blow if you didn't get Ohtani and he goes to a division rival with the Yankees, which it appears is going to be the case. You're going to have to figure something else out, whether it's trade. It's going to be tough. They've really pushed their chips in here on Ohtani, and if it doesn't come to fruition, they're not going to be in a particularly advantageous position, because if they go to the trade market, teams are going to know that they're really, I don't know if I want to say desperate, but very keen on making a big splash, making a huge addition, and teams will look to maximize the return that they can get out of them. So if they don't land Ohtani, it's going to be very interesting, and I think very difficult for them to make the improvements that they're looking to make.
Hey, just on Soto for a second. I mean, at times I thought the Jays were the leaders for that. Then things have changed the last few days, and all of a sudden the Yankees are back in, and it sounds like he's going there. If you're the Padres, do you wait to see what happens for Ohtani? Because you might have a big player that didn't get their first choice in the mix, and that might sweeten the return for Soto. Or if the Yankees have a deal that makes sense, that they just pull the trigger.
I think when you look at both teams, if you're talking about the Yankees and the Blue Jays, considering what has sort of filtered out today about what might go to San Diego in that trade, I have a hard time seeing the Blue Jays realistically making that same level of deal. They probably could. And it's just a case of whether San Diego prefers New York's package or Toronto's. And it seems like they really like Michael King, who transitioned into a starting pitcher from a reliever this year and was really good for the Yankees in the second half of the season. I think you could look at Alek Manoah as sort of the comparable major league starter, but coming off of the season he came off of. Do you really want to make that gamble if you're the Padres? I think they feel more secure about a King-led package, and they can also get rid of Trent Grisham. And I don't know if the Blue Jays would want to take him. He's due to make about $4 million next season. And it seems like financially the Padres just want to do as much as they can to trim payroll, and that's a factor in the deal as well. And I think that also sways a little bit to the Yankees side of things.
GSM's in the chat. He said Atkins gave an interview yesterday. Should have just said no comment. Well, he basically did.
He did. Yeah.
Have you ever remembered executives tiptoeing around information and being as tight-lipped as we've seen, with the exception of Dave Roberts, which got, I think, an angry text from their GM yesterday? It's been kind of funny to watch happen, and every one of these guys is on eggshells trying to do their job, their media obligations, but not say a damn thing, even to the point of that they're interested in this guy.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's as unique of a situation as there's been. It's a Fort Knox type of situation. Nobody really wants to reveal too much or say too much. And is Dave Roberts, is that going to be held against him? I really struggle to see, but Ohtani is as unpredictable as it gets. So there's no real way of knowing. And it would be quite a story if the Dodgers lose out on signing a player like this because their manager spoke out of turn, said some stuff that probably he shouldn't have said. But it wouldn't put it past this whole situation for that to be the case. That's how bordering into absurd it's gotten. I'm enjoying it. It's entertaining, but we're not going to see a free agency like this, maybe in any sport, but certainly in Major League Baseball, probably ever again.
Oh, Josh, this has been great having you on the program. Are you like the rest of us, just refreshing your Twitter feed every 20 seconds and checking your text messages? And what did you and the score team have cooking up on this, I guess, up until we find out what happens?
Yeah, we're just kind of on bated breath like everybody else. Like you said, checking every mode of social media communication possible to see if there's anything out there. And it sounds like by the end of the weekend at the latest is what the latest is in terms of him making a decision. So we're just on pins and needles until that happens.
Do they have white smoke in the Rogers Center that they can blow up the Piats when we find out one way or the other that a decision is in? Wouldn't that be something else? Well, I'm hoping that we're able to get you back on the show in the near future to talk about this turning out very positively for Toronto, Canada, and the Blue Jays when it comes to Shohei Ohtani. Thanks a lot for the chat, Josh. Always love chopping it up with you.
Yeah, let's hope for the best and hope to do it again soon, Hustler. Have a good one.
Right on. Take care. There's Josh Goldberg. Give him a follow on Twitter at jgoldberg12 and check out his work over at The Score. All right, we got to get Remo in here. There's some tidbits from the Board of Governors we want to talk about, and we do have some pretty big games in the National Hockey League to look at tonight. But tonight, the main event, of course, is the holiday party at Little Brown Jug supporting the Christmas cheerboard. If you jumped in late, we're going to be at Little Brown Jug at 7 p.m. There's still a few tickets left, but as we checked the Eventbrite earlier on, I think there's a few people waiting that have been jumping on it. So please, if you haven't already, hit that link. It's in the chat. It's in the description of this video. If you're on, if you're just listening and you want to do it on the website, winnipegsportstalk.com. But grab those tickets. They're $11.98. Every cent is going to a donation to the Christmas cheerboard. And in addition to the delicious pints we'll be having at LBJ, and of course, a little pizza from BP. DQ Nick's bringing by some ice cream treats for everybody from DQ. We've got a great raffle, which we'll be doing tickets. Bring some cash for that. That's the one thing that you won't be able to pay debit for. We've got a little brown jug package with some great merchandise and beer. We've got a Jets package with a framed autographed Kyle Connor photo, a Jets hoodie, and a Jets toque. Perfect just in time for the holidays. And then we have added, and I have confirmed, the opportunity to sit in the most premium seats in the entire arena in the brand new Play Now Club, courtesy of Ticketmaster, with myself and Reem for the Columbus Blue Jackets game on Tuesday, January 9th. All of the food is included, with different dishes being available pre-game, throughout the game, and afterwards. And the most comfortable seat I've ever sat in any sporting venue, period. So all three of those will be done. We'll be doing, I think, sort of 5 tickets for $10. We'll be raffling those off tonight and hopefully have a nice donation for the cheerboard. But most importantly, a great chance to get together with all of you at Little Brown Jug. And of course, LBJ is available wherever they sell great beer, but the best place to do it is there. And right now they're running a promo where you can also get a free $15 gift card for the tap room when you purchase assorted Little Brown Jug beers. So we'll see you tonight at LBJ. If you've been waiting on it, join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. And you can get Scott Billeck's autograph as well, as he will be bringing his Sharpie. And, in conjunction with that, a huge thanks to Nick. Nick and Nikki DQ been with us since day one. Of course, they are the go-to spot. And right now, you're going to be doing a lot of cooking. You got some big holiday gatherings. Get a DQ ice cream cake in the for the festive season. You can hit them up at DQ Northgate or at DQ Polo Park. Obviously, if you're in the mall, pop by and support Nick and Nikki. But you can also hit them up on Instagram at DQ Manitoba. Send them a picture. Let them know what you want. They'll get it done for a quick and easy pickup at either DQ Polo Park or the DQ Northgate. And don't forget, they've also got the Pita Pit now in Niverville. If you're thinking about great, healthy, fresh, delicious catering options, they can help you with that at Pita Pit Niverville on Twitter or Instagram if you want to get in touch with them right now. All right, Reem, let's get back to it. Man, that was a fun conversation with Josh. He's awesome. And you can tell that there's a lot of people that are very interested in the decision of the Japanese superstar coming up shortly.
Yeah, it kind of brings back memories of us, watching, figuring out what's going on with Barry Trotz coming to Winnipeg.
Let's watch. Yep.
Obviously not the same caliber of thing, but just similar way that you're, you news reports, updates, sightings. I saw a reporter from LA Times reporting what the tour there took place last Friday. So lots going on. And as the shout out to T. Conapoli for the super chat, giving his Christmas cheerboard donation, writing Xmas with 3 X's.
Triple Xmas. That's
Thanks,
probably that's a different website, Polly. But thank you very much.
But yeah, a lot of refreshing of what MLBTradeRumors.com for the latest on Ohtani, basically.
Hey, by the way, hit the thumbs up, folks, if you haven't already. We're like 300 people in here. We've only got 132 likes. Help us out. Get some good karma going in for tonight's festivities. Mm-hmm. Remo, I do want to touch on a couple of these things from the BOG meetings before we get to the Coolbet lines and finish it off. Although, interesting news today. How about, speaking of Back to the Future, how about Jacques Martin joining the Sens as a senior advisor working along with DJ Smith?
Yeah, well, the rumors going on is like, when are they going to get rid of DJ Smith? This was supposed to be the year of the Sens, the year they take the step forward. And, they got some great offensive talent, but there they are, bottom of the Atlantic Division.
Yeah, but they haven't played any games. Big win last night against the New York Rangers. And they've got 5 or 6 games in hand. Like I heard Ian Mendes talking earlier today. He said, listen, they've got a real tough schedule the next little bit because they played so few games. But, if they could go even 6-4 in their next 10 and getting into the new year on the right side of 500, maybe this team can take a run. But Jacques Martin's got a lot of experience, a very great reputation there in Ottawa in his previous time with the Sens. And I do think that this management group is going to be as patient as possible with DJ Smith. And if anything, decisions will be made at the end of the year. So maybe this can help in the meantime. As far as the BOG goes, so they're out in Seattle. The salary cap is going to jump $4.2 million from 83.5 to 87.7, and not too shabby. 6.2 billion in revenue this season. So that'll be key when we're talking about free agency and teams' projections going into next year. But we did get confirmation from Gary Bettman that the league is planning on doing an in-season tournament in February of 2025, which would be a 4-team competition between Canada, the U.S., Finland, and Sweden. And I know there were some complaints about that. I am not willing to complain about anything that gives us the opportunity for real best-on-best competition, even if it won't be all the top hockey nations in the world. I can start off with the 2 Scandinavian teams and Canada and USA.
Yeah, they realize they got to get something. And this has been, I think, a huge failure from the NHL not to have any international competition. They had the World Cup was at 2016, which I thought they made, what they made, not as, didn't feel like a true best on best with the gimmick teams. And you had the pandemic and political stuff prevented them from going. So look, they're going to do something. They're like, hey, we got to do something that's in-season tournament. In-season tournament, look at NBA. They've got that going on. But NHL doing, yes, with the 4 teams, Canada, USA, Finland, Sweden. And, they'll have a semifinal and a final. Sure. But what they really want is the Olympics in 2026 in Italy. We'll see if that actually happens. And then go a 2-year cycle with the World Cup 2028. And then Olympics, 2030. So hopefully it gets done, but let's walk before you can run and get a 4-team tourney. And maybe we'll get suckered in. They'll come out with some, specialty jerseys. We'll see some great players together because, again, it's just really sad how you haven't seen generations of Team Canada players playing on the same team. Again, my best hockey memories are 2002 Olympics, 2010 Olympics, World Cup of Hockey, 96, even though Canada lost, 2004 World Cup. Those are great hockey memories that a generation hasn't had. And sure, let's go with this tournament here. And I don't know. I'm intrigued.
I want Canada, USA. I want to see those 2 teams go at it. The Sweden-Finland games will be phenomenal. And then a little final series with whoever can win this 4. The entertainment value will be incredible. And hopefully, to your point, it will be a precursor for full participation in the 2026 Winter Olympics. They are adding a draft to the All-Star game this year, and the skills comp is going to have a $1 million prize to the winner. So hopefully that makes it a little bit better. But speaking of drafts, Reem, I know they're going to the decentralized draft, which I sort of hate selfishly because of what a great opportunity it's always been to network with people when we're at the draft. But I'll tell you what, if they're going out with a bang, this is the way to do it. The Sphere has been booked for the 2024 draft in Vegas, and we got to get planning for that right now.
Yeah, and I've been fascinated by the Sphere after seeing these videos of U2 performing there. My renewed interest in U2 after seeing the backgrounds. And I think a lot, Chris Johnson was reporting that some people were saying this is going to cost a lot of money, and you have to do a ton of work to put in the digital artwork that goes on the screens at that kind of resolution. And I don't know what they're going to have. Are they going to have the Sphere as like a giant Jets logo when they make their pick? The marketing opportunities here of the graphics on, the background of the screen or just the outside of the building enormous. So certainly exciting that they finally got that locked down, and going away from the in-person draft seems, I guess every league is kind of doing this, where it's like, hey, why are we spending so much money? Do we really need 20 people on the stage wearing matching suits saying, "We'd like to thank the city of Las Vegas for hosting the draft, congratulating the Stanley Cup champion Winnipeg Jets on winning." Oh, sorry, getting a bit too ahead of myself there, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah. Did you catch that one? Were you
I did.
Were you actually paying attention there?
And shout out to everybody at our draft party back at Boston Pizza in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
So did we get, hey, Carl Decksheimer, thank you very much. Merry Christmas, WST. Nice little super chat. Appreciate you, Carl, thank you very much. Anyways, that is must do for us. The Sphere. And the funny thing is, this is going to be the best draft ever. And then that's going to be it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I'm still hopeful that maybe they decide to go the other way, because the draft week, or those days leading up, really is the true hockey convention of the year, where pretty much everybody is there. So I hope that maybe there'll be some reconsidering, but at least we can look forward to the Sphere this year. And yes, everybody congratulating the Winnipeg Jets on raising the trophy at the end of this season. All right, before we're done and get ready to head down to Little Brown Jug tonight, let's get over to the Coolbet lines for tonight. 4 games, but they're all awesome matchups. Dallas is in Florida. Dallas beat the piss out of the Lightning. What was it? 8-1 on the weekend. And then Tampa returned the favor with the 4-0 shutout a couple days ago. Dallas stays in Florida and takes on the Panthers tonight. The Panthers are a -118 favorite. Dallas even money at +100. The Tampa Bay Lightning, coming off that big win, get the Penguins, who just lost back-to-back games to the Flyers in the extra frame. Tampa's -125. Pittsburgh's +107. And then Vegas in St. Louis to take on the Blues in the rematch. Blues just went into Vegas and pulled 2 points out of there. Vegas will look to do the same. LV -156 favorites. The Blues +132. And a straight-up pick'em ream between the Hurricanes and the Edmonton Oilers. Of course, we just saw the Canes put 43 on Laurent Brossoit. I would suggest if they can put 43 on anybody playing net for the Oilers, they'll probably have a good chance to win. Total for that game has now gone up to 7. And the Oilers have not played. Both of these teams' last game was against the Winnipeg Jets. The Oilers last Thursday, and of course the Hurricanes Monday. So see if the Oilers can get back at it. We know how quickly the Hurricanes started as opposed to the Jets. So Oilers are going to need to be ready for that. So those are the 4 games tonight in the league. We did cook up a Lock Shop exclusive today. The Lock Shop Partner Parlay. We've got the Lightning to beat Pittsburgh, Vegas to beat St. Louis, and Carolina and Edmonton over 6.5 total goals. When we put that in, it was +428. Patty and Jake with a very generous boost for the Lock Shoppers. That's at +500 or 5-1 right now in the Coolbet exclusives. And we are down, speaking of that NBA in-season tournament. Games last night, semifinals are determined. Thursday, it'll be the Pacers and the Bucks, and then the New Orleans Pelicans and the LA Lakers in the other semifinal. Winners to play for $500,000 per player in the championship game Saturday in Las Vegas. That was a wild show today. We actually usually we've been so locked in on the Jets and the Bombers, but it was fun talking little prospects with Stephen Ellis. Obviously a great visit with Billeck, and then Ohtani watch. Someone said we might need a logo. I think we may have passed that. We wouldn't have enough time to make that happen, but there will be a lot of watching of the old feed over the next little bit for any information as it pertains to the Japanese superstar.
Yeah, nice to get a couple different topics today, and we'll return with the Jets play in Colorado tomorrow. Nice 8 p.m. start, Huss. And yeah, for the Avs, you did mention Makar. He was game time decision yesterday. He ended up not playing after half participating in the morning skate. Bowen Byram did leave with injury, so we'll have to wait on him. And Sam Girard, he went into the player assistance program, so he's going to be out for a while. So the Avs down a number of defensemen, but hey, it was no problem for them yesterday in their win. And a couple other NHL notes. That's Pat Kane making his debut for the Red Wings tomorrow against the Sharks. John Klingberg having surgery, going on LTIR. They need a defenseman. Could they be interested in Logan Stanley? They need a big guy. I have no idea, but they have some more cap space. And a couple games tonight. But more importantly, the WST party. And I'm gonna have to start getting our banners ready. Got to have the signage there. Maybe I'll bring some dash of stickers to hand out. Looking forward to seeing everyone there. That should be fun.
Speaking of stashes, any of you stash growers that were part of the WST Movember team, if you're coming tonight, make a point of popping by and say hi. I went by Modern Man yesterday, got a cut, and picked up a little package for all the guys that donated their time and their upper lip to the Movember movement. So pop by for that. Hopefully we'll see some of you there and we can take care of you. And then I'll probably give the rest of you room and we can set up the drop-off spot for guys that aren't able to make it to tonight. Who knows? Maybe there'll even be some live Discording from our nightly headquarters at Little Brown Jug for people that can't make it. That being said, 7 p.m. is go time. Russ, we'll see you there tonight. We'll get some pizzas delivered around 8. And we'll probably do the raffle in and after 9, probably go till about 10 or so tonight. So really looking forward to seeing everybody tonight. And by the way, All Caps Kyle was asking about getting on Coolbet. You know what you should do? Fire them a DM on Twitter and just let them know your issue. You're in Manitoba, but it's showing Ontario. That'll be a fix that they'll be able to help you with that. And hey, if you haven't played a Coolbet before, check the Lock Shop daily, noon, before WST, over with Dusty at the Edmonton Sports Talk station. And if you haven't played a Coolbet before, use the promo code WST when you're signing up and making your first deposit. We'll hook you up with a 100% bonus, up to $200 on that first deposit. Right on. Well, I'm Huss, no goat talk. I'm shocked. What do you mean? We talked about Christine Sinclair earlier today. You maybe just came a little late today, T. Conapoli. Yeah, WST jerseys with name bars would be fun. Ooh, and name tags.
I have ones that I bought them for the night out at the Jets. I just never took them out of my fanny pack.
Oh, perfect. Actually, okay, there you go.
Funny story. I brought that fanny pack because I carry my charger and I was carrying a bunch of stuff and I put it on the security thing. You guys like, yeah, I can. I got to check your purse. I'm like, purse? This is a fanny pack. I guess it's a purse. I mean, I was just carrying it like a purse. I wasn't wearing it. So I guess if you're just carrying,
as long as they didn't misgender you, you can call it purse, whatever you want. It's your boy Bruce, Brock Lesnar's daughter. Oh my God, I saw that picture of her. That is Brock Lesnar's kid. I think she just set the record at Colorado State for the shot put at like 18.5 meters or something like that. Crazy. Oh, and there's Amanda. Great show. Have a great time at LBJ. Have a couple beers for me. I will happily do that. Maybe I'll see you later on after the festivities. Good luck on the felt tonight. And everybody else, if you haven't, there's still a few tickets left. Grab the link. Every cent's going to the cheer board. And again, bring a little bit of cash, $10, $20 so you can get into the raffles. We've got the Little Brown Jug prize pack. We've got a Jets prize pack with a Jets hoodie, toque, and a framed autograph picture of Kyle Connor. And then what'll be the grand prize, somebody will win a couple tickets to join myself and Remis for the January 9th game against Columbus in the Plano Lounge seats, where we'll be enjoying all the chef's creations all game and sitting in the most comfortable seats, maybe in the NHL. Cannot wait for that. All right, we'll get the pod up and we'll get down to Little Brown Jug. We'll see you there just after 7 p.m. tonight, gang. Have a great one. Thanks for being with us. Hit the thumbs up for your YouTubers on your way out if you haven't already. And we'll catch you tonight at Little Brown Jug and see you tomorrow right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.